which is very wonderful. But on Radhastami generally, although it may not always be the case, but in general, in most of our, at least Western temples, there are not so many public devotees from the outside coming in, or public coming in. It's usually a little bit more intimate, a little bit more the regular devotees living in the temple or nearby. So today we're happy to be here in Inish Rath. Radharani is so incomparably beautiful here in Govindadweep. With all of her deer and peacocks around and about, and on an island, the river Yamuna. This is the river Yamuna, isn't it? This is the river Yamuna here? River Yamuna. Obviously it must be. Radha and Krishna are here, so it must be the Yamuna. And they're having their pleasure pastimes on the barge, up and down the river. Anyway, today is Radhastami, so let's see what little mercy we can pray for from Srimati Radharani on her birthday. It's miraculous that this is connected so quickly. It's quite often a challenge connecting up to the PowerPoint. But today, by Krishna's grace, everything connected. Radharani's mercy. So normally we start any class, not always, but usually with Jai Radha Madhava, so we'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. Hare Krishna. And convenient. Will you play the harmonium?
Yes, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Rohini. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. Gopi Janabala Lava Girivardhari Gopi Janabala Lava Girivardhari He is the lover of the coward maidens of Vraj, the lifter of the great hill named Govardhan. Yashoda Nandana Raja Janarandana Yashoda Nandana Raja Janarandana Yasodanandana Raja Janarandana the beloved son of Mother Yasoda. Oh dear. Unfortunately, whoops, very careful with the wires, please. Unfortunately, I didn't double check on this. I've left the other 3 slides out. It was a rush this morning trying to get this together. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Careful of the wire. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jaya Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtota Siddhishra A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gaurnitai ki, Shri Radha Govinda ki, Shri Radhastami Mahamahotsav ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Anga and all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namani Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prasharine Nirvasesha Sanyavadi Paschasya Desha Tarini Om Jnana Timrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tadmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Shvapatantikam Vandiham Shri Guru Shri Tapatakalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sita Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sita Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vrindavan Ishwari, the Queen of Vrindavan. Vrishabhanu Suti, O daughter of King Vrishabhanu. Devi, O goddess. Hari Priya, one who is very dear to Lord Krishna. So many names of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the Queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vanchakalpa torobhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya.
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 Krishna tava punya habibhai. Krishna tava punya habibhai. Hey punya karibe jabe Radharani kushi habe.
Hey Punya Karibe Jabe Radharani Kushi Habe.
Druvati boli tomatai.
Durvati Boli Tomatai.
This is a prayer which was compiled by Srila Prabhupada on board of the Jaladuta on September the 13th, 1965. Almost 2 days out from this year. But on that day, Srila Prabhupada compiled this prayer. Prayer generally taught. Prayer to the lotus feet. I emphatically say to you, meaning, O brothers, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. This is our mission of this movement, you could say Srila Prabhupada's mission, to please Radharani. We'll hear some of the wonderful statements of Krishnadas Kaviraj and Srila Prabhupada's comments later on. That is known, generally known, that Radharani is a reservoir of compassion. And her compassion is for Krishna, of course. That Krishna's pleasure be ever increased. The feeling of somehow or another increasing Krishna's pleasure. So, in relationship to our situation, this compassion is manifested in the form of wanting to increase Krishna's pleasure, no doubt. And in terms of practical aspect, to reconnect the parts and parcels of Krishna with him. This is Radharani's desire. The external aspect of that compassionate form in terms of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world, to reconnect the jivas to Krishna in loving devotion under the shelter of Radharani, of course. So in order for assisting or being a part of this mission, this will of Radharani, because when living entities engage in Krishna's service, it increases Krishna's pleasure, which is, Krishna's pleasure is Radharani's pleasure. There's simultaneously, there's no difference. When Krishna is pleased, Radha is pleased. When Radha is pleased, Krishna is pleased. So to please Krishna, this preaching mission is there. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for of course his internal reasons, which we'll hear about in a minute, but externally, to spread the Yuga Dharma and to reconnect the fallen souls with Krishna, to increase the pleasure of Radharani's Lord. So today being Radhastami, most auspicious day, a great opportunity for all of us to pray for Radharani's mercy, that we can become pleasing to Krishna and assist Srila Prabhupada in this mission of preaching Krishna consciousness in whatever way we can. We may not be big preachers, but we can do whatever service we can to please Krishna, to assist in this mission. We have no qualifications, especially on a day like today, especially to speak about the Srimati Radharani, the most confidential personality, the most prized. We don't like to use the word possession, it's not appropriate, but the idea is there of the Lord, of all of his associates, all of his expansions, everything that exists. Nothing is more dear to Krishna than Radharani. So it's very special, confidential pastimes. We have no eligibility to enter into this. Srila Prabhupada did speak on Radhastami on several occasions, and he would speak mostly in terms of tattva. In tattva, in terms of relevance, you could say, in understanding how important Srimati Radharani not just is, but also in our own endeavors to become servants. She's the personification of pure devotional service. We are basically, especially in our line of parampara, most of our acharyas are in that mood of Madhurya Rasa, conjugal relationship with the Lord, assisting in that mood as manjaris. And so Radharani is, of course, the objective of all the service, which is then offered to Krishna through Radha. We'll move on with your permission, and this morning I'll be requesting the both to hear carefully. Try to hear carefully, because there's going to be a fair bit of reading. I believe the session is in two parts. One is now, and I quickly saw last night the schedule appears to be another class, is the word, not very high class from my side. A class, or let's say a opportunity to hear about Srimati Radharani, again at 1 o'clock. I believe it's 1 o'clock. So please pray that some another we may speak words which will be pleasing to Srila Prabhupada and Radharani this morning, and to Krishna, of course. So where should we start here? I think we'll start with one devotee asked Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, who is Sri Radharani, or Srimati Radharani? And he answered, Sri Radha is Sri Krishna's eternal consort, and the crest jewel among his lovers. There is no one as dear to Krishna as Sri Radha. Sri Radha is not inferior to Krishna in any way. Lord Krishna himself accepts two forms. One as the enjoyer and the other as the enjoyed. Two forms, same person. In this way, he relishes eternal pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita states, we'll come across this statement a few times, it's one of the most famous statements in this section. Radha Krishna Ek Atma Dui Dehadari Anyonye Velasi Rasa Ashwadana Krai. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two forms or two bodies. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. We were passing by Jivananda Prabhu, who was playing the lecture of Srila Prabhupada in 1971. Was it in London or where? Yes. In London, on Radhastami. And briefly Prabhupada, this point was mentioned, that you cannot, he said, if I'm sitting in the desert or in a dark room with no one around and speaking, there is no pleasure. But because all of you are gathered here, we have pleasure in speaking. Prabhupada was saying, right? You remember? Of course, sometimes we hear Prabhupada saying we can speak to the four walls because actually one is never alone. But we can understand the point that enjoyment, pleasure, requires, there has to be, if subtly or grossly, but there has to be some variety there. There has to be some, in terms of physically at least, another living entity to share or to reciprocate with. You may do it subtly also. And people have this dreaming tendency, this fantasy world. But it's a subtle form of the same thing. On our own, we can't, although Krishna is Atmarama, at the same time, he's primary, he's the enjoyer. He's certainly the potent source of everything. But his primary potency is his Shakti, his energies, his Ladini Shakti, which is the potency to increase that pleasure. Just like we are always trying to increase our pleasure, a new taste, a new place, a new sound, a new relationship, a new book, something or another, to try to expand our limited pleasure. Because we're Anandamaya Vyasa, we're pleasure seeking. And that is because it's the nature of Krishna. He is pleasure seeking. God is pleasure seeking. This is his internal energy, Ladini Shakti, to experience ever-increasing bliss or ananda on the highest level. So he expands. Everything is an expansion of Krishna, material, spiritual. Maybe we can say the material was a kind of reflective expansion, but it's also an expansion of Krishna. This material is also his energy, and the living entities are expansions of Krishna through his Sandini potency personified by Balaram. This Ladini potency is personified, fulfilled through the media of Radharani. But it's ever increasing also, and she also, we'll hear later, we won't mention now. Krishna's desire to enjoy, as we have a desire to enjoy because it's there in God. Nothing can exist in us unless it's there in God. Whatever is existing has its origins in the personality of Krishna. So he goes on to say, if Sri Radhika beauty were not greater than the beauty of Krishna, who is overwhelmed by his own beauty, then she would not have been able to attract that most enchanting Krishna. This is, I don't know if it's mystifying or whatever, but sometimes we become captivated. I think it's called narcissist, something like that. Narcissism. Captivated by one's own beauty. Both that is perfectly justified in the case of Krishna. Sometimes he looks into a reflection of himself and becomes captivated. We may also do. But that's narcissism, self-indulgence, pride, and so many things are mixed in there. So that's there, but he's more captivated by Radharani. This is the underlying, you could say, essence in many ways, essence of our Krishna consciousness. We may be captivated by the material energy. We may be captivated by our own existence and trying to fulfill our own senses and so on. But we have to become captivated, param drishtava nivartate. We have to become captivated by Krishna. And Radharani is the personification of that, which captivates Krishna. And he goes on to say, thus she is known as Madana, Mohana, Mohini. This is very famous. Krishna is Madana Mohan, one who attracts everyone, but he who attracts everyone. Imagine how powerful Radharani is, how great she is, that she is able to capture God. He goes mad. He's mad for Radharani, the supreme personality of Godhead. Just see. He's so attracted by Radharani. Now, in terms of our, you could say, our position here and in the spiritual world, a devotional service, Radharani is the personification of that internal potency also, of seva, of service in the highest form. Devotional service captures Krishna. So she's giving us a chance also. We may not think like that, but through pure devotional service, Krishna is captivated. Krishna is compared to the full moon, and Radha is like his effulgence. She is also the origin of all of Krishna's energies. And that we'll hear later. Servants do not have sufficient words to properly describe their worshipable Lord, but the worshipable Lord can describe the truth about those servants. That is why Lord Krishna alone is capable of revealing Sri Radhika's glories to us. Another personality who can reveal the science of Sri Radha is the spiritual master, who directly serves Krishna and the daughter of Brishabhanu, and who is an intimate devotee of Sri Gaurasundar. So, this doesn't refer to ourselves, it refers to those eternal, those parishads, those Nitya Siddha, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj. But we're being greatly fortunate to be able to assist or to be under their shelter if we want, under their protection, to be their servants of their servants. In this way, we may also experience or have this A rare opportunity, very rare, to enter into this highest form of pure devotional service. This is Lord Chaitanya's desire. We don't jump there. We humbly submit ourselves and follow in the footsteps of the pure devotees according to their guideline. Lord Krishna is the reservoir of all transcendental pleasure and the origin of all beauty and transcendental qualities. He's the shelter of all opulence, heroism and knowledge. Only he is capable of understanding Sri Radha's greatness. What can puny human knowledge understand about her glories, or even the knowledge of liberated souls? It is impossible to describe her greatness. She, whose only shelter is Krishna, and who is able to enchant the most enchanting Krishna. Because of her opulence and sweetness, the whole world is bewildered. This is another aspect, you could say. The attractive forms of this material world are also, in one sense, especially the female forms, are also reflections of that irresistible attractiveness of Radharani. And we're captivated, just like Ravana was captivated by Sita. He's an expansion of Radharani. He's, what to speak, Krishna himself is captivated, so it's not surprising when we forget Krishna. Everybody wants the kingdom of God without God. They want to enjoy his opulences, they want to enjoy his various qualities and so on, separate from Krishna. And especially they want to enjoy the female form if you're in a male body, of course. The reflections of the beautiful goddesses of fortune. They may be quite perverted, but still people wish to enjoy those forms. The whole material world is based on this principle of wanting to basically enjoy Radharani or various other expansions without Krishna. Why did they have to be for his pleasure? Why not my pleasure? This is the basic principle of the conditioned nature of the living entity. We want to enjoy that which is meant for Krishna's pleasure. A very important, we could say, premise here is that we have, and maybe sentimentally, no, we can't say that everyone's in the same category, but in many cases it's sentimental that we have some idea that we can have some ability, some access to these intimate subject matters regarding Srimati Radharani and the gopis and so on. They are given there in the Krishna book. Prabhupada has revealed whatever degree is required or for our level of adhikara. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna and Rasa Leela and wonderful pastimes which are revealed there, which we can hear. But to delve into, one has to be qualified. We'll hear about that in the second session. But, and many devotees, they have a tendency to imitate rather than follow. And Prabhupada talks about how in Vrindavan, how the resonance of Vrindavan, as we know it in this world, so to speak, Bhuma Vrindavan, how they chant Radharani's name, they pray to Radharani, knowing that she's very merciful, and by her grace we may be able to become dear to Krishna and so on. In our line, in the Gaudiya line, primarily our objective is to become, we have no qualification, but we could say dear to Radharani. Our business is not to directly approach Krishna. Our business is to assist. If Radharani brings the most pleasure to Krishna, which she does. Now, a devotee, an aspiring devotee, wants that Radharani be with Krishna. They're always trying to make arrangements for the pleasure of Krishna to bring them together, Radha and Krishna together. Not that I want to be with Krishna, stand aside, Radharani. Step to the side, please. I am now here. Look at me. That's not the mood of a devotee, at least a Gaudiya devotee. It's not our mood. Our mood is to want to see that Radharani is with Krishna for Krishna's greatest pleasure. Of course, Krishna has other plans too, but that's the devotee's mind. And Radharani has her own desires too. She likes to see the devotees with Krishna. The other devotees. It's always a transcendental, well, I don't know if you call it competition, but there's always this transcendental variation there in saying one's desire. But ultimately everything is for the pleasure of Krishna. So devotees feel like that. Not only that, but Srimati Radharani is we're under the shelter, we're in the Gaudiya line, basically worshipping Srimati Radharani through Sankirtan, through preaching, and so on, in their mood. And I'm sure that she really likes to hear Krishna's name. We know that from so many statements. She's not our business to say, but she, and as followers of her, we also should emphasize Krishna's name, but not separate from Radharani. We don't chant Radharani's name separate from Krishna. They're together. Radha and Krishna are always together. So even in chanting Krishna's name, we may sometimes do where it's authorized to do so, but primarily it also has to be along with Radharani's name, together, but in a form which is appropriate. And here we see a little mention of this subject matter is given. Some devotees that like to chant Radharani's name separate from that of Krishna. We're not commenting more on that, except for that Srila Prabhupada did not do that. He did not like his devotees to do that. There may be some, you could say, and there is not really, but to some degree it's understood on Radhastami that may be there. It's not, I'm saying that that's Prabhupada's instruction, but that's become a kind of sort of situation within the general society. We did do that during Prabhupada's presence on the planet. I won't say in front of him, but at least we will chant occasionally like that on Radhastami. But on other occasions, if at all, extremely minimal. Extremely minimal. Because Prabhupada emphasized we should focus on chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Radharani's name is 16 times in the form of, I don't know the technical definition, the vocative case of someone, in the Mahamantra as Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare is Radharani. We cannot approach Krishna without the grace of Radharani. We have to go through Radharani. And we don't separate her ever from Krishna. It's not our business. Our business is the opposite of that. We approach her that we can assist her in serving and bringing pleasure to Krishna, but not separately. And, oh Radharani, please give me Krishna. No, it's not our business. Our business is to become Gopir Bhatta Pada Kamalam Dasa 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 Das. The eternal servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, on and on and on of the gopis, Vrindavan. And they're all emanations or expansions of Radharani. Ultimately, that's our business. So here we see the Hare Krishna mantra is in fact a prayer to Srimati Radharani.
The word Hare is derived from Hara, which denotes the internal energy or Ladini Shakti of Krishna. This is none other than the Srimati Radharani. When one is chanting the Maha Mantra, one is saying, "O Krishna, O Radha, please engage me in your devotional service." Krishna is difficult to approach directly, but he is Bhaktavatsal, always eager to please his devotees. Thus the mood of a devotee is to invoke the compassion of Srimati Radharani, who then recommends the devotee to Sri Krishna. This is Radharani's heart. Since Krishna is easily pleased by Srimati Radharani, he then readily accepts the devotee in his service. We don't ask for that, I say, but that Krishna may rearrange. We're going to today read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I have somewhere in this book, in this bag here, down the sack. Merci. So we're going to read here, as is quite commonly done on this day, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. How many of you have read all of the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Please, hands up. If you've read the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, we may not have realized it, but at least gone through it. Hands up. I'm sure Preeti Prabhu, you've read it many times. You're too humble in this stage of your life, my brother. You know what to do. So, interesting. We generally start, of course, Barbara said that the Chaitanya Charitamrita is postgraduate study, postgraduate. Funnily enough, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, according to Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav anyway, had his disciples reading Chaitanya Charitamrita before the Bhagavatam. Because without understanding, and if you see in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, how does Prabhupada introduce the Bhagavatam? And right in the very beginning, the introduction to the Bhagavatam. What is it? What's the introduction? Excuse me? Chaitanya Lila. Srila Prabhupada, quite an extensive introduction discussing Lord Chaitanya's life and teachings. Of course, it's not as extensive as teachings of Lord Chaitanya or Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it's quite extensive. To understand Lord Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu's position is, in one sense, preliminary to the Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, of course. To understand it in the correct way through the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He is the Yuga avatar, the holy name of Lord Chaitanya. So by chanting the holy name of Krishna, the Maha Mantra, Prabhupada emphasizes, as we mentioned just now, is the way that we worship Radharani, by chanting the Maha Mantra. And the way we understand the Srimad Bhagavatam is through the process or the path that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. Otherwise, we may have whatever we may have, we won't have the appropriate understanding, that's for sure. Here's a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let me just see. I think we'll leave that for a minute. I'm going to start reading now from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda.
We're starting from the Adi Leela chapter 4. Now if you've read this chapter 4 and chapter 5 particularly are quite
what we say, demanding chapters for the, let's say, of our, sometimes people have difficulty concentrating. Has anyone ever experienced that? Anyone ever experienced difficulty concentrating? Isn't it amazing how difficult it is in Kali Yuga? Sometimes our memory is not very good. Anyone had a problem with their memory? You ever forget things? It'd be nice. Do we ever remember things? Unfortunately, I tend to remember rubbish rather than Krishna consciousness. All kinds of nonsense which I did in my childhood are still very strongly embedded in my subconsciousness or whatever it is. Remembrance and attention. We understand from many references, particularly in the first canto, third chapter of the Bhagavatam, how Sutta Goswami says to the sage, now hear with rapt attention, just as I have heard, this subject matter. And if you hear with rapt attention, you'll see Krishna on the pages of the Bhagavatam. Rapt attention. What is rapt attention? Full, undeviated, undisturbed attention, full focus. Just like you have the projector, and when it's not properly focused, you can't see the picture. It's not very attractive, or you can't read it or see it properly. It's not distinguishable. So, yes, with rapt attention, it's an amazing medicinal effect to hear Krishna Katha with rapt attention. And we find the first, probably, I don't know exactly, maybe the first 5 chapters of the Adi Lila, for most of it are hard work, if you want to put it like that. It's we say intellectual work or something. It's hard reading. If you've read the Krishna book, which is the easiest chapter in the Krishna book? What's your favorite chapter? Huh? What's the easiest chapter to read? We all look forward to it.
Well, because I haven't read the Krishna book in ages, I can't exactly know what my favorite chapter in the Krishna book is, so I'm gonna have to go for whichever one my dad's currently reading to me right now.
Great, that's perfect. And that is? What is that? Pardon?
It's about Aniruddha and Usha.
Huh? Aniruddha and Usha?
Yes.
Okay.
24.
The kidnapping of Usha. Kidnapping of Usha. Very nice. So, one devotee said to me the other day, quite surprisingly, my favorite chapter in the Krishna book is the prayers of the personified Vedas.
Scholar.
And quite a few of you are laughing or smiling. And you may have gone through it once, but probably that was it. It's 91 pages long, and it's kind of quite philosophical, isn't it? Generally speaking. 11th canto Bhagavatam varies, but it's quite philosophical also. It's essential to have this philosophical understanding. Essential. Otherwise it remains a story, something we just repeat to get attention. Something we repeat because we feel good. Something we repeat maybe to get money or whatever it may be. Something save and accept pleasing or understanding what it means to please Radharani. At the moment we're not in the right consciousness. The consciousness has to change. If we want to enter into the pastimes of... It's interesting, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj also, and this is not exclusive, this is not everyone by the way, but many of his disciples, he would not let them read the chapters of the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, describing the Rasa Lila and these pastimes. He wouldn't let them read it. It was taboo. Now that wasn't all disciples, by the way, but depending on their adhikar. But particularly you wanted devotees to get this foundation of understanding of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mission and the proper approach to Radha Krishna Lila. And that goes on to see, we find that, for instance, in a beautiful song, Gauranga bolite habe pulaka sharir Hori Hori bolite nae ani babinir. Beautiful song, maybe we'll sing it later if we have any energy or time. Describes there, if we really want to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? Read about them? Maybe that's a part of it. But what do we have to do? What do you say? Hara kabe nitai chande karuna hoibe. What's the other one? Rupa ragonatha pade hoibe akuti kabe ama yugala se yugala piriti. We have to go through the books of the six Goswamis. We have to take shelter of the six Goswamis to understand these things. And Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is also Krishnadas Kaviraj, but he's also from Raghunath Das and Rupa. He's received this subject matter, this of Lord Chaitanya's Leela, and through Nectar of Devotion and so many other literatures that the Goswamis have given us. We have to go through those literatures to have the proper understanding and to bring pleasure to Radha and Krishna. Misunderstanding does not bring them pleasure. And that's a big topic. I'll begin reading from these books now, text 45 onwards of the 4th chapter. And if you can seriously and attentively go through these chapters, believe it or not, you'll have 20/20 vision, hopefully, to be able to see and then enter into the rest of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Otherwise, it's nice entertainment, interesting stories, but to actually enter into those pastimes, you could say. So this is text 45. Increasing love is experienced in various tastes, one above another. This is a description of the internal reasons why the Lord appeared in this world. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the external reasons are quite simple: to spread the Yuga Dharma and to fulfill the prayers of Advaita Acharya and others. The Lord appeared. It was also scheduled according to his words. But the internal ones are quite mystifying for most people. So this is the reason. Increasing love is experienced in various tastes, one above another. But that love which has the highest rasa means a mellow taste relationship, in the gradual succession of desire manifests itself in the form of, what's the highest?
Rasa.
Pardon?
Rasa?
Which rasa is the highest? Quite simple, which rasa is the highest? Excuse me? Madhurya, conjugal love. Conjugal love, very interesting. We don't have time to go into details. Therefore, I call it Madhura Ras. It has the sweetest, it has two further divisions, namely wedded and unwedded love. There is a great increase of mellow in the unwedded conjugal mood. Such love is found nowhere but in Vraj.
Where are we reading now?
Oh, sorry. Adi Lila, chapter 4, text number 47. If you wish to follow. I didn't have time to put it on the PowerPoint. One or two verses are on the PowerPoint, but mostly not. So that was 47. It's found nowhere other than in Vraj. Now, where was I reading this morning? Can't remember. But maybe in Chaitanya Charitamrita elsewhere, it was described that Vraj is not just the Boma
Vrindavan. We sometimes hear that this paramour relationship is only found in Gokul. But Gokul is also in Goloka. It's an eternal quarter of the spiritual realm. With that mood, by the Yogamaya's arrangements, the gopis, the Lord's eternal associates, also feel this mood of paramour love with Krishna. This mood is unbounded, has no limit, in the damsels of Braj. But among them it finds its perfection in Sri Radha. That's text 48. Text 48. It finds its perfection in Sri Radha. Her pure, mature love surpasses that of all others. Her love is the cause of Lord Krishna's tasting the sweetness of the conjugal relationship. And I'm going to get lost if I don't go forward. I can't read my other slides here, so I'm going to read the verse we have here, I think. Yes, on the screen right now. Tayorapu bayor madhye radhika sarvatadhika mahabhava srupayam gunarati variyasi. Among the gopis of Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani and another gopi are considered chief. Who knows? Are we allowed to mention the other gopi's name? Maybe not. Maybe we'll get in trouble, especially on Radhastami. I was one time, some of you have been to the birthplace of Radharani? Where's the birthplace?
Oh, I know, Varshana. And yes, I have been there.
Varshana, and again, Raval. Some people say this, some say that. But the official appearance of Radharani was in Raval. And one time I was on the Brajmandal Parikrama. Have you ever been on Brajmandal Parikrama? Anybody been? Have you been on Brajmandal? With Lokanath Maharaj's Parikrama, yeah? And I had to get back to the Krishna Balaram temple one day earlier. I had a meeting of some kind. So I did the whole Parikrama, except for one day I missed, 2 days I missed because of meetings. So I had to leave one day earlier. I left at Brahmandagat, if you've ever been to Brahmandagat. I walked from there and I thought, I'll finish the Parikrama in one day. You know, I'll walk there from there to Raval, and from Raval to Vishramgat in Mathura, which is where you begin and end. You know. It's a bit of a walk, but it's doable. And so I started walking. I didn't know where I know more or less where I was going, but I didn't know exactly where I was going. And I never walked to Raval before. I'd been on bus, but not by walking. So I didn't know which road it was. So I was trying to ask the local people which way to, you know, Raval to Radharani's, Janmastan, where she's born. And people say, oh, I'm going to speak no English, so I'm giving signs. And then someone said, this way, this way. So I went down there and I thought, oh, there's a lot of people going there. There are lots of people going. And then slowly I got closer and I just didn't recognize anything. It seemed foreign. And then I did ask them, they spoke a bit of English, and I said, is this the way to Raval, to Radharani's birthplace? No, no. This is the birthplace of...
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Of oo. Uh-oh. Of oo. You said oo. Chandravali. It was Chandravali's birthplace I was going to. And so many people were going there. So I turned back. Went back to the main road and walked a bit further than I asked. And I found then the road to Raval, further down. And I walked there. And when I went to Raval, there was literally nobody there. Nobody. It was silent. As I entered the village, the villagers, some of the villagers were in their, front of their houses, but there was no pilgrims coming in. And all that I heard was, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. They weren't even chanting Jairadi. They were chanting Haribo. And when we got to the actual, it's like a temple, palace site, it was silent. I was completely alone for about 1 hour there. It was an amazing experience. Amazing. Anyway, it was just a sideline. So it appears there's another gopi. These are the two chiefs amongst all the gopis. Rival parties. Conservative and Labour. Rival parties. Right and left wing gopis. But when we compare the gopis, it appears that Srimati Radharani is most important because her real feature expresses the highest ecstasy of love. In other words, it brings the most pleasure to Krishna. The ecstasy of love experienced by the other gopis cannot be compared to that of Srimati Radharani. So that's in the Madhya Lila. And now this is text 50. I'm going to put this on the screen, so if you haven't found it yet, this is text 50, the very verse we're about to read here. And we can chant this together. Ataiva se bhava angikarakari Sadilena nija vancha goranga Shri Hari. Therefore Lord Gauranga, who is Sri Hari himself, accepted the sentiments of Radha and thus fulfilled his own desires. This is just a summary of what comes further on. That he accepted the sentiments of Radha and thus fulfilled his own desires. Radharani also said that if you're going to take my sentiments, you have to take the color. She gave him her color also, that golden hue. And there's a famous verse. This is not the next verse. Is it the next verse? No, it's not. There's a famous verse in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's one of the invocation verses. Radha Krishna Panaya Vikritil Hadini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmana Vapi Bhuvi Pura Dehavedam Gototo Chaitanyakam Parkatam Adunata Dvayam Chaikam Aptam Vadabhava Duti Srivalitam Nomi Krishna Svarupam. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities are again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him, who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Nectar. Of course, they're all eternal. This is only understood through the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya, Chinchya Veda Veda Tattva. Simultaneously one and different. How they became, yet they're eternal. When we use the word become, it usually infers coming into being. It wasn't there before. But on the transcendental platform, it's not like that, exactly. They're eternally existent, so the feeling of becoming may be there, but they're actually eternally existing. Everything's eternally existing. The one personality, in two personalities, and again the one personality with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, are eternally existing. It's not one becomes the other exactly. That's how it appears. I like to read this purport of this verse number 50, at least some of it, if not all of it. Let's see. I wish we'd been start here. Some devotees think this is the purport to text 50, the second paragraph. We haven't got time to read it all, so I just go into the second paragraph. Some devotees think that Krishna is eternally the enjoyer in Goloka Vrindavan. Oh, here it is. But only sometimes comes to the platform of Raj to enjoy Parikiya Ras,
The 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, however, have explained that Krishna's pastimes in Vraj are eternal, like his other activities in Goloka Vrindavan. Vraj is a confidential part of Goloka Vrindavan. Krishna exhibited his Vraj pastimes on the surface of this world, and similar pastimes are eternally exhibited in Vraj in Goloka Vrindavan, where Parakya Ras is ever existent. It is far more exciting than Svakya Ras. Svakya Ras is the married relationship, seeing Krishna as one's wife, as one's husband. The Parakya Ras is the mentality as if Krishna has somebody else as his wife, and he's your lover, your paramour, is much more exciting. And it's a fact, even in the material world, although it's condemned, it is exciting from a mundane point of view, because it has its pure origins in Krishna. In the third, and this is just a sentiment, Krishna does not have anyone else. He has no other wives as such. They're all expansions of Radharani. In the 3rd chapter of this epic, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj has explicitly accepted the fact that Krishna appears in this material world at the end of Dwapara age, at the 28th Chaturayuga, and brings with him his Vrajdham, which is the eternal abode of the highest pastimes. As the Lord appears by his own internal potency, so he also brings all of his paraphernalia by the same internal potency without extraneous help. It is further stated herein that the Parakya sentiment is existent only in the transcendental realm and nowhere else. This highest form of ecstasy can exist only in the most confidential part of the transcendental world. But by the causeless mercy of the Lord, we can have a peep, Prabhupada says, into that invisible Vraj, that totally confidential, unmanifest, whatever you want to call it, place. It doesn't have a dimensional place, but area of Goloka Vrindavan, where the conjugal pastimes of the Lord are eternally manifesting. It's not even known to others, even in the spiritual world. But Prabhupada's here, by the causeless mercy of the Lord, particularly the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we can have a peep into that invisible Braja. The transcendental mellow relished by the gopis in Braj is super excellently featured in Srimati Radharani. Mature assimilation of the transcendental humor of conjugal love is represented by Srimati Radharani, whose feelings are incomprehensible even to the Lord himself. Although he may be able to describe her, he can't feel what she's feeling. That's why he appears as Mahaprabhu. Therefore, the Lord himself agreed to assume the position of Radharani in this form of Lord Gauranga. He then relished the highest position of Parakya Ras, as exhibited in the transcendental abode of Braj. Krishna wanted to experience himself what Radharani is experiencing in this mood of paramour, or Parakya Ras. We're moving on to text number 52 of the 4th chapter of Adi Lila, text 52. Lord Krishna desired to taste the limitless nectarian mellows of the love of one of his multitude of loving damsels, Sri Radha. And so he has assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya. He has tasted that love while hiding his own dark complexion with her effulgent yellow color. May that Lord Chaitanya confer upon us his grace. I'm going to jump forward now to text number 55. And I think, no, I haven't. Next one I've got. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, I think we read that already, didn't we? That was the previous verse. Yes, we've read that just now. It's that verse which we read just now, which is still on the screen. That's on the screen. Is appearing 2 or 3 times in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It appears now as text 55 here. It also as text number 5 in the 1st chapter. So we'll go on to text 56, which is this one.
Radha Krishna Eka Atma Dui Deha Dari Anyonye Velase Rasa Asvadhana Kari. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two bodies. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. And there's a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada to text 56. The two transcendentalists, Radha and Krishna, are a puzzle to materialists. The above description of Radha and Krishna from the diary of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami is a condensed explanation. But one needs great spiritual insight to understand the mystery of these two personalities. One is enjoying in two. Human beings, they expand themselves through children and property and so on to try to increase their pleasure. But they still remain one, and the other remains separate. So there's a mystery here. One is enjoying in two. Sri Krishna is the potent factor, and Srimati Radharani is the internal potency. Potent and potency. Shaktiman and Shakti. How they are one, but appear different, to facilitate you could say, the pleasure of Shaktiman, of the one. According to Vedanta philosophy, there is no difference between potent and potency. It's like sometimes we give the example of the sun and the sunshine. They're one and different. The sunshine is sun, but it's the shine. The sun remains the sun, and the sunshine is, but they're interdependent on each other in a sense. Well, at least the sun rays are totally dependent on the sun. They exist perpetually together. Everything in the absolute is inconceivable in relative existence. Is inconceivable. One of the natures of God is He is inconceivable. What to speak of Srimati Radharani? Therefore, in relative cognizance, it is very difficult to assimilate this truth of the oneness between the potent and the potency. We see a difference between the potent and the potency in this relative world. The absolute platform, there's no difference. The philosophy of inconceivable oneness and difference propounded by Lord Chaitanya is the only source of understanding for such intricacies of transcendence. In fact, Radharani is the internal potency of Sri Krishna, and she eternally intensifies the pleasure of Sri Krishna. Increasingly, intensely, eternally. Impersonalists cannot understand this without the help of a Mahabhagavat devotee. The very name Radha suggests that she is eternally the topmost mistress of the comforts of Sri Krishna. As such, she is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. We should never forget that. She is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. And we can only approach her through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we can only approach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the mercy of Lord Nityananda, which means through Guru, through the Parampara. Devotees in Vrindavan therefore seek the mercy of Srimati Radharani in order to be recognized as loving servitors of Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally approaches the fallen conditioned souls of the Iron Age to deliver the highest principle of transcendental relationships with the Lord. The activities of Lord Chaitanya are primarily in the role of the pleasure-giving portion of his internal potency. The absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the omnipotent form of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss in full. His internal potency is exhibited first as Sat, existence, in other words, as the portion that expands the existence function of the Lord. The same potency, while describing full knowledge, is called Chit or Samvit, which expands the transcendental forms of the Lord. And finally, the same potency, while playing as a pleasure-giving medium, is known as Ladini, or the transcendental blissful potency. Thus the Lord manifests his internal potency in these three transcendental divisions. We'll read on, text 57.
Now to enjoy rasa, they have separated in one body. They have appeared in one body as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I can bounce forward because we've read that already. There's a quote here on the screen, if you look on the PowerPoint, from the Brihad Gautamiya Tantra. The transcendental goddess Srimati Radharani is the direct counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna. She is the central figure for all the goddesses of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. A nice summation of what we've heard so far. We'll move on to text number 58. Krishnadas Kaviraj says, therefore I shall first delineate the position of Radha and Krishna. From that, the glory of Lord Chaitanya will be known. So to understand who Lord Chaitanya is also pretty important. And you can't separate the two. The next verse, text 59. Srimati Radhika is the transformation of Krishna's love. She is his internal energy called Ladini. Next verse. That Ladini energy gives Krishna pleasure and nourishes his devotees. We'll jump forward a few verses if you're able to. Quite a few verses because of our time span. Give you a few moments up to text number 68. Text 68. Because the rest of the verses are dealing mostly with Sandhini and Samvit potencies. But we're focusing on the Ladini, not the other potencies. Text 68. The essence of the Ladini potency is love of God. The essence of love of God is emotion, or bhava. And the ultimate development of emotion is mahabhava. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to text 68, the product of the Ladini Shakti is love of God, which has two divisions, namely pure love of God and adulterated love of God. Only when the Ladini Shakti emanates from Sri Krishna and is bestowed upon the living being to attract him, does the living being become a pure lover of God. In other words, his descending. Only when that descendant mercy of Radharani, the Ladini Shakti, is bestowed or shines upon the jiva, can we awaken this love of, or pure love of God. It's not just by a practice, it's by the divine mercy alone. Practice may attract that mercy, but it's not the actual mercy itself. It is a form of mercy in the form of, you could say, guidelines, directions, information, etc. But the real mercy is when that Ladini Shakti descends upon the covered jiva, and as the sun's rays dissipate darkness, they dissipate whatever darkness is left in the jiva's heart, whatever separation still remains. It doesn't come by our own effort. But when the same Ladini Shakti is adulterated by the external energy, in other words, when that energy, that Ladini Shakti potency shines and it's coming through the three modes of nature, we have a different effect. Emanates from the, I'll read again. But when the same Ladini Shakti is adulterated by the external material energy and emanates from the living being, it does not attract Krishna. So even our own emotions, our own so-called attractiveness, our own loving exchanges, this is a perverted reflection of pure love of God. Perverted reflection. There's a city in Russia. Some of you may have been there, maybe you're from there, I don't know its name. I call it Prema, it's called Perm. P-E-R-M. P-E-R-M is almost the same as Prema. Perm. There's nothing like Prema, by the way. The word's almost the same. And who knows what the river is flowing through that city? Pardon? The river Kama. Isn't that amazing? The river Kama. Kama Rupa, spiritually speaking, is the highest form of pure love, or pure lust. We call it lust. The word directly means lust in English, but pure love, or pure lust, is unadulterated. It's simply for Krishna and nothing else, to please Krishna. In the material world, it's all about pleasing ourselves. What satisfies my mind and senses, isn't it? And that's the perverted form of we call karma, lust, and it's called lust in this world, lust. Lust, this is the adulterated version. When the same Ladini Shakti is adulterated by the external energy and emanates from the living being, in the form of our own emotions, which are simply tiny little reflections of the real form of love of coming from Krishna himself, the living entity becomes attracted by the glamour of the material energy rather than Krishna becoming attracted. At that time, instead of becoming mad with love of God, the living being becomes mad after material sense enjoyment. And because of his association with the qualitative modes of material nature, he's captivated by its interactions of distressful, unhappy feelings. Now that's a big subject, we won't go into it, touched it yesterday. But the process of transformation is the association of Radharani in her approachable form in the material world, which is in the form of the Maha Mantra, and in the form of devotional service, which is not different than her. She appears in this world in an approachable form as Radha, as Hara, or Hare. We're not really on that platform to approach her as Radha, where we do chant Radha Govinda, Radha Gokulananda, and so on. But otherwise we chant Hare Krishna. Next verse. Shri Radha Thakurani is the embodiment of Mahabhav. She is the repository of all good qualities and the crest jewel among all the lovely consorts of Lord Krishna. Next verse. Of these two gopis, we've already heard that, Srimati Radharani and Chaitandravali, Srimati Radharani is superior in all respects. She is the embodiment of Mahabhav, and she surpasses all in good qualities. Next verse. Her mind, senses, and body are steeped in love for Krishna. She is Krishna's own energy, and she helps him in his pastimes. Everything that exists in the spiritual world, all the various Shaktis, Yoga Maya, everything that exists there is working to increase or the pastimes, or make the pastimes of Krishna more tasty. Everything perfectly arranged as a person tries to make their house perfectly arranged for their own desire to fulfill their own will, etc. And the whole spiritual world is like that, for the pleasure of Krishna. Devotional service is the transformation for arranging this world for our own pleasure, to arranging it for the pleasure of Krishna. That is the process of devotional service. That transformation has to take place. We're not endeavoring to perform service for our own pleasure, but to bring pleasure to Krishna. We could read so many things here. There's a purport. Okay, we read it. Shima, you can welcome to go, because I know it's a long time and we're dragging on and we just keep reading, don't worry. Srimati Radharani is as fully spiritual as Krishna. No one should consider her to be material. She is definitely not like the conditioned souls who have mental bodies, gross and subtle, covered by material senses. She is all spiritual, and both her body and mind are of the same spiritual embodiment. Because her body is spiritual, her senses are also spiritual. Thus her body, mind and senses fully shine in love of Krishna. She is the personified Ladini Shakti. Therefore she is the only source of enjoyment for Sri Krishna. He's that Shakti personified. We may be under the influence or in that Shakti, so to speak, but we're not the personified form. She is the personified form, personal manifestation of that Shakti. Sri Krishna cannot enjoy anything that is internally different from him. Just like if you want to enter into fire, you will become like fire. Therefore, Radha and Krishna are identical. The Sandini portion of Krishna's internal potency is manifested the all-attractive form of Krishna, and the same internal potency in the Hladini feature is presented Srimati Radharani, who is the attraction for the all-attractive. No one can match Srimati Radharani in the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. We'll move forward, text number 75. The beloved consorts of Lord Krishna are of three kinds: the goddesses of fortune, the queens, and the milkmaids of Braj. It's text 75. Who are the foremost of all. The milkmaids of Braj are the foremost of all. These consorts all proceed from Radhika. Next verse. They all come from Radhika. Just as the fountainhead, Lord Krishna, is the cause of all incarnations, so Sri Radha is the cause of all of these consorts. The goddesses of fortune are partial manifestations of Srimati Radhika, and the queens are reflections of her image. It should be noted, however, that reflections in the spiritual world are also absolute. They're not separate. They're absolute. They appear separate, but they're not. Like in the material world, reflections have no substance practically. They're indications, but they have no real substance. In the spiritual world, they do. The goddesses of fortune are her plenary portions, and they display the forms of Vaibhav Vilas. The queens are of the nature of her Vaibhav Prakash. Don't ask me to describe that. The Vraj Devis have diverse bodily features. They are her expansions and are the instruments for expanding rasa. So all the eternal Nityasiddha gopis, they're all expansions of Radharani, wholly and solely to increase the rasa or relationship, or the pleasure relationship with Krishna, specifically with Radharani. Without many consorts, there is not such exaltation in rasa. Therefore, there are many manifestations of Srimati Radharani to assist in the Lord's pastime. They are unlimited. Different aspects which flavor the relationship. Every single one has a slightly different character, a different behavior, a different mood, even a different dress. Everything's slightly different, unlimited. We'll go on now to text number 81. 81, no, it's 87. Okay. Among them, the various groups of consorts in Vraj who have varieties of sentiments and mellows. Among them are various groups of consorts. They help Lord Krishna taste all the sweetness of the rasa dance and other pastimes. Prabhupada says in the purport, I'll just read a little bit of it. Similarly, Srimati Radharani expands herself, mentioned that. Such expansions from Srimati Radharani are all her plenary portions. All these womanly forms of Krishna are expansions corresponding to his plenary expansions of Vishnu forms. When he expands as Vishnu, Radharani expands as Lakshmi. When he expands as Ram, she expands as Sita. When he expands in any of the forms, even Lord Shiva, she expands as Parvati. Like this. And because of this double, you could say, male-female aspect in the absolute, we find the same thing in the relative, male and female, always wanting to relate with each other in various rasas or relationships. It's eternally existing. The Godhead is sometimes said to be both male and female. They both are present in the Supreme, as the Supreme Person in one sense. We'll go to the end of that purport. There's a repetition here in the purport. I didn't have time to edit this. The variety of innumerable mistresses is a source of relish for Sri Krishna, And therefore these expansions from Srimati Radharani are necessary, because Radharani wants to increase Krishna's pleasure. Therefore they're necessary for enhancing the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. Their transcendental exchanges of love are the super excellent affairs of the pastimes in Vrindavan. By these expansions of Srimati Radharani's personal body, she helps Lord Krishna taste the rasa dance and similar other activities. Srimati Radharani's being the central petal of the Rasa Leela flower is also known by the names found in the following verses. And now we see some beautiful names of Radharani in the following verse 82, 83, maybe 84, I don't know, but at least 82 and 83. Radha Govinda Nandini, Radha Govinda Mohini, Govinda Sarvasva Sarvakanta Shiromani. Radha is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda. That's Govinda Anandini. She is also the enchantress of Govinda, Govinda Mohini. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda, Govinda Sarvasva, and the crest jewel of all of his consorts, Sarva Kanta Shiromani. Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Pada Devata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti Sammohini Para. The transcendental goddess Srimati Radhika, Radharani, is the direct counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna. She is the central figure for all the goddesses of fortune. She's the central figure. Sarva Lakshmi Mai. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive person. Sammohini. She completely bewilders Krishna. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord, the Para. These are some names of Radharani. Radhika, of course, speaks for itself. And the next verse, Devi Kahi Dotamana. I won't read the whole verse. The translation, Devi means resplendent and most beautiful, another name of Radharani. Or else it means the lovely abode of the worship and love sports of Lord Krishna. Another name of Krishna, of Radharani here. Krishna Mai, next verse, text 85. Krishna Mai means one who's within and without our Lord Krishna. Not without that we're trying to serve, and within we're thinking of something else. Or vice versa. They're both there. Not within we're thinking of Krishna and doing nonsense outside. No, both. She sees Lord Krishna wherever she casts her glance. She sees nothing separate from Krishna. Or she is identical with Lord Krishna. For she embodies the mellows of love. The energy of Lord Krishna is identical with him. Text 87. This is a famous verse. I put it on the screen. There it is. 87. These 87 and 88 are quite famous verses. Krishna Vancha Purti Rupa Karyaradani Hata Eva Radhikanam Purani Vakani. Her worship, Aradhana, consists of fulfilling the desires of Lord Krishna. That's her worship. Therefore the Puranas call her Radhika. And Prabhupada writes, the name Radha is derived from the root word Aradhana, which means worship. The personality who excels all others in worshipping Krishna may therefore be called Radhika. Radhika means the greatest worshipper, or the greatest servitor. And text number 88 rather. Anaya radito nunam bhagavan harir ishvara yanno vihaya govinda prito yam anayadraha. Truly, the personality of Godhead has been worshipped by her. Therefore, Lord Govinda, being pleased, has brought her to a lonely spot, leaving all of us behind. Who spoke that verse? Pardon?
Gopis.
The gopis. During the Rasa Leela pastime, when Krishna left the Rasa Leela, he took Radharani alone with him. He wanted to be alone with her. That's a big subject matter. And what was the reason that he took her alone?
Transcendental pride.
Transcendental pride. Whose transcendental pride?
Srimati Radharani's.
Well, she had transcendental pride, and that came out in different ways, but the gopis also had transcendental pride. Some little pride, oh, Krishna has chosen just me. Everyone thought that Krishna is with me alone. Huh? And that little pride, so therefore Krishna disappeared from the scene. If we think, we're in the center in any way like that, even on the spiritual platform. Of course, this is, as you say, transcendental, although it may be seen that we do know that there are many different types of gopis, but nonetheless, there's a transcendental pride also. So then Krishna took her alone, and the gopis who were then devoid of the manifest presence of Krishna were going crazy. And when they realized that Krishna was gone off with one of the gopis, one of them, then they spoke these words. This is one of the verses. It's interesting in the purpose. So that's from the 30th chapter of the 10th canto, that verse. And this word here, Radhito, or Radha Ito. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is not found. Of course, Prabhupada didn't translate and comment on this verse in the Bhagavatam, so there's no purport from Prabhupada. But in the purport of the disciples of Prabhupada, they researched to the various commentaries. So they're quoting here Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary on this verse. Explains that the word Aradhita refers to Srimati Radharani. He comments, the sage Shukadeva Goswami has tried with all endeavor to keep her, that means Radharani's name, hidden. But now it automatically shines forth from the moon of his mouth. That he has spoken her name is indeed her mercy. And thus the word Aradhita is like the rumbling of a kettle drum, sounded to announce her great good fortune. This is a key verse in many ways, although it isn't usually quoted like that. But to reveal that ascension, in many ways, you could say the essence of everything in the Bhagavatam is the devotion of Radharani. So it comes out here as Aradhitaha, or Aradhito. And why Sukadeva Goswami has been almost, I don't know, purposely or whatever, but avoiding mentioning her name up to this point, and only indirectly in this verse, or the previous one also. Why? One may ask, why does he not make it clear? First of all, it's the most confidential name. If you have something very, very, what does it mean, confidential? You don't just give it out easily. It's very rare. You only show it to your most confidential associates, especially if it's something very valuable. We know the story of the Shamantaka jewel. And when Pasena took that jewel off into the jungle, it was lost. It was a disaster. He got killed, everything. You don't advertise that. At their stage, one of our most valuable jewels, you could say, or whatever little bhajan or tapasya we may be able to perform. We don't make it public news. It's confidential. Of course, it's general. That's okay. But anything special. So the name of Radha is in the treasure trove of Krishna, practically his most valuable possession. Is not to be advertised, especially amongst persons who are perverse, amongst persons who are devoid of proper understanding, pure devotion. That would not be shared. So that's one reason. Another reason why Sukadeva Goswami has systematically, seems to be anyway, has not directly mentioned the name of Radharani. At least that's what we hear from some of our acharyas, is that he is, we saw a painting earlier on of Radha and Krishna on the bank of, I guess you could say the Yamuna, or at least a tributary or something. It looked like a river, for sure, one of the paintings, a waterfall.
And on that painting there were also peacocks, swans, cows, and one other living entity. Pardon? Parrots. There were parrots. As you may well know, Radharani has many, many parrots. Unlimited parrots also are there. And in the spiritual realm, in the form of Tulsi, of course, we usually hear that. But Sukadeva Goswami is generally, the word Sukha means parrot. He's understood that this is his role. He's a messenger, bringing the message, just like Srila Prabhupada on the Jaladuta brought that message, as we started off with that beautiful prayer of the lotus feet on the board, the Jaladuta. The word Jaladuta means messenger who crosses the ocean, basically speaking. Messenger of the ocean, that's what it means. Prabhupada brought that message across the ocean. So in one sense he's like that too. He's a messenger, like a parrot, bringing that transcendental message to the right place in the right way. But at the same time it's understood that if Sukadeva Goswami had mentioned the word Radha, he would not have been able to continue with his recitation. It would have been unbearable for him to continue, to remember Radharani, who is his worshipable. She is his worshipable life and soul. So I guess we can, where are we now? What text were we on? 88? 88? 88. There's just a few more verses and then we'll finish. Therefore, Radha is Parama Devata. It's 89. The Supreme Goddess. She is worshipable for everyone. She is the protectress of all, and she is the mother of the entire universe. I've already explained the meaning of Sarva Lakshmi. Radha is the original source of all the goddesses of fortune. Or it means, or she represents the six opulences of Krishna. Therefore she is the supreme energy of Lord Shri Krishna. The word Sarvakanti indicates that all beauty and luster rest in her body. All the Lakshmis derive their beauty from her. Kanti may also mean all the desires of Lord Krishna. All the desires of Lord Krishna rest in Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radhika fulfills all the desires of Lord Krishna. This is the meaning of Sarvakanti. Lord Krishna enchants the world. That's the nature of Radharani. She fulfills all the desires. Others may partially fulfill some of the desires, but she fulfills all the desires. Lord Krishna enchants the world, but Sri Radha enchants even him. Therefore she is the supreme goddess of all. Sri Radha is the full power, and Lord Krishna is the possessor of full power. The two are not different as evidenced by revealed scriptures. They are indeed the same, just as musk and its scent are inseparable, or as fire and its heat are non-different. Thus, Radha and Lord Krishna are one, yet they have taken two forms to enjoy the mellows of pastimes. Hare Krishna. So that leads on to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and so on, but we're here later. Shrimati Radharani ki jai, Shri Radhastami Mahamahotsav ki jai, Hare Krishna. Sorry, it was a little bit, you could say, maybe a little laborious, a little bit challenging, and you were very humble to have stayed here. I'm sure it meant the thought may, how long is this going to go on, has been going through your minds over the last hour or two. When is he going to stop? I'm tired. I've got to go for a walk. I got my japa. I've got to go on internet. Or whatever it may be that's on their minds. Service maybe. But thank you for being with us. And we're supposed to have Arti, 12:30 Arti. What's the schedule? Tell us the schedule.
Well, give the
12 o'clock kirtan, 12:30 arti.
1
Then-
o'clock class,
Okay.
2 o'clock Abhishek, 2:30.
Oh, very nice. So we continue with a obviously a shortened version, but with the PowerPoint presentation we'll continue at 1 if that's okay. So be prepared. Have it ready if you can on time so we don't waste those valuable minutes. I guess there's a few minutes of flexibility, 1 or 2 minutes at each end. Nothing ever ends exactly on time.
When is it called, presentation?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
That's okay. I don't mind if I don't do it either. I'm only doing this because I'm asked to. I'm happy to sit and listen, or happy to go to sleep or do something else. You want me to cut vegetables, I'll go in the kitchen and cut vegetables. You know, they're the best thing for me. The only hope. I'm not so good at washing pots, I don't have so much energy, but I can cut vegetables. I can cut, I'll go wash pots if they're not too big if you need. Can't do much else. Can't do much else. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Srimati Radhika ki Jai. Hare Krishna.